Huge.
Yeah.
So Stuart, I want to wrap up with, I think maybe the hardest question or the biggest question. One of the mysteries of our faith is the providence of God. Who's in charge? The sovereignty of God. What role do we have? And you touched on this earlier. Did God cause this to happen? Do you just respond to what happens? Is life random? How has this event changed your view of the sovereignty of God or God's activity in the world? I mean, the whole issue of certainty, talk a little bit about that.
Well, Kelly and I had already been wrestling with that a little bit. We did have a window of time as empty nesters where she would travel with me when I would go and speak different places. And the more we've been around the country, the more we've talked to people, the more I started feeling really antsy about this reality that, and this sounds really harsh, Andy, but I feel like we've made an idol out of certainty. And an idol isn't an idol because it has a particular, property to it. An idol is an idol because of the value you place on it.
Right.
And so much of our existence revolves around security and certainty. And what I think has happened in our life as a result of this is this unveiling of the fact that you've got your value on the wrong things. The only thing you can trust, the writer of Hebrews says Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He doesn't say your circumstances are, doesn't say your marriage will be, doesn't say your health will be, doesn't say your children will be, doesn't say your country will be, doesn't say the economy will be. Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So the question becomes then, why would I lean my life on anything but him? Do I think that God made this happen? It's such an interesting tension, because to believe in an all-knowing God is to believe that God knows everything. I don't know if God made it happen. I do know he wants to make it matter. And because he wants to make it matter, I think she and I feel this almost like this burden that we've got to join him in whatever it is that he's trying to do because of the story, because of what it is that he's done in our life. And what we don't want to do, it's interesting when uncertainty happens, I think we all have this propensity, wherever there's a contradiction, we'll set up an opposition to it. Like if something contradicts our certainty, like with COVID, for example, it's a contradiction in our certainty. So we go, well, it's a conspiracy theory or it's a political agenda.
Yeah, there's something in us that has to reconcile everything with our worldview.
Correct.
Otherwise, we feel like we're crazy.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But if our worldview is too small to reconcile everything with, the problem is our worldview. And for Christians, that oftentimes intersects with a problem with our theology.
Right.
So this is such a big deal. I don't want to interrupt.
The only way I would end is, like, I've found myself over the last, so this is my 10th week out of the hospital. The last 2 weeks I've been looking and re-examining the story of Job. Not that I was anywhere close to Job.
Maybe.
Well,
yeah.
But
it feels very Job-ish to the rest of us.
It does feel very
right?
Job-ish,
yeah.
Or my dad would say Job-ish.
Job-ish, yeah.
But one interesting thing about that story, in the epilogue, Job says something to God that I haven't gotten over. He said, I have heard about you for a long time, but now I've seen you with my own eyes.
Wow.
That's where I kind of feel like we are. Like, I've heard about all this, but now I've seen him with my own eyes. Why would I trust anyone but him? Because he's the only thing that doesn't move. He's the only thing that doesn't change. And he's really the one working this in and through us for his own good. Paul says that it works together for good. He doesn't say that everything is good. Not one time have we asked, not because we're more spiritual than anybody, but I haven't asked, why me? I'm like, okay, how do we make this matter? Because she said it best. Andy, that's probably the hardest part for me, is why am I still alive? And all these people who have every reason to be alive have passed away. I don't think God made that happen. He just wants us to make it matter. That's kind of probably where we've landed.
No, that's